Do you want to discover how you can utilize ancient wisdom in digital transformations? Join me now as I'm about to interview Judith O'Callaghan, and we are going to dive deep into the connection between ancient wisdom and digital transformations. We'll see you soon.
Hi folks, welcome to the Moving Beyond Being Good podcast by Gary Ryan from Organisations That Matter. In this podcast, Gary shares everything about servant leadership, service leadership, authentic leadership, how to create high-performance cultures, service excellence, and life balance. Here's your host, Gary Ryan.
Thank you, Sienna, for your lovely introduction. Judith, welcome aboard. How are you doing?
Hello, Gary. Great to see you. So thank you for having me.
It's a fascinating topic, ancient wisdom and digital transformations. On one level, they couldn't seem further apart. And yet, here you are, bringing them together, and we're not too far away from something amazing happening. Do you want to let the audience know what's about to happen in the next few months?
All right. So I am writing a book on ancient wisdom in digital transformation. So I'm looking forward to completing my part of it in March, and then the publisher can do its magic. So that's my excitement and that's my commitment at the moment. So I'm so looking forward to sharing the wisdom with the wider population.
And so, Judith, have you come up with the title yet, or is that still as part of the work that you need to complete?
It is still fluid. I'm open for suggestions. So if anyone has a suggestion, they can reach out to me. Absolutely.
So what's the working title now? Are you happy to share that?
Yeah. So ancient wisdom in digital transformations. That's the crux of it. And anything with an added flavor is welcome. So any suggestions are welcome. Yeah.
Honestly, the more clear it is, the more simple it is, the more people will understand it, the more people will buy it, the more people will consume it, more people will read it, the more people will get the benefit from it. So that sounds simple enough to be more effective. You might have a subtitle that you come up with as well. But so what is a digital transformation to start with?
So this is an interesting topic, right? So I've been thinking about it, and some people think it's a buzzword and some people think it's a trend and all that. So basically what we are doing is setting up the businesses for the future using the technology that's available. So any business for that matter has a lot of enablers, starting with people, process, and other things. And technology plays a huge part, whether it's now or 100 years back or 1,000 years back. Technology always played a part. And these days we work with computers and other technology. So how do we leverage what's available for us as technology and make our lives better? As a result, we can serve others better. So, and make businesses better. So that's what it is all about. So it's enabling businesses through technology. So that, in my opinion, is business transformation.
And at times, I guess, Judith, there must be some challenges with digital transformations that in the end aren't better.
Yep.
Their intention is to be better.
Yeah.
And so the most effective digital transformations would have well and truly taken that into account before we press go, obviously, and go down the particular path.
Yeah.
You got some examples or stories that align with that reality that we need to make sure we get that transformation right as best we can.
Yes. Definitely, right? So this is a favorite topic of mine, and it is how do we ensure success in a digital transformation? So that's one of the talk tracks that I always use. So I'm going to talk about a program which was very close to my heart, one of the very first implementations that I have been involved, and the odds were really stacked against them. So I'll take you through a story. So the odds were, this was in a location which was far, far away, which is like the nearest city was 2 hours away, and the main language wasn't English. In addition to that, we had 5 other languages to deal with. And in addition to complicate things, it was not everyone in the workforce could read or write. Plus, constraints things that we take for granted, for example, electricity, was limited. So in a situation like this, how do we make it successful? But this organization went through that transformation, and it enabled them to be in line with their global peers, bring the work that they were doing available for everyone to serve. So they are they're a basic manufacturing, producing a basic product, but then it that transformation enabled them to be able to trade with the rest of them in the world, and as a result, they're helping themselves, helping people who they are working with, and the world is having a better product. So that for me was a beautiful transformation story. So here are the three things they did, which I believe is a fundamental part of the story. First, they knew who they were and what the challenges they were up against. And two, they consciously understood that what works somewhere else doesn't necessarily work for them, and vice versa. And they were open for solutions that is right for them. And the
Mm.
third one, surrounding themselves with advisors who had their intent in mind. So their interest in mind. So the solutions were informed. And the good and the bad and everything in between, they did it together and celebrated it together. So as one of the older people or older saying goes, you learn very little from success, but you learn a lifetime of learnings from failures. So capitalize everything that is learned and use it to stack success. So that's the
Yes.
principles that I have seen adopted. So what I would suggest is for anyone embarking a digital transformation, have a period of conscious pause. Every methodology that we talks about it, be it Prince2, be it Activate or ASAP or any of the PMP methodologies. They all talk about it, and how often do we actually do that? That's a phase we necessarily skip over. But in my opinion, if we consciously take a pause and understand who we are and understand what is important to us, the why behind the what, and the what and the how becomes easier, or that'll solve itself.
And that conscious pause, which is that
Yeah.
connected to that second step of the localization of the transformation process, where you're ensuring that whatever it is that you're doing does take that local context into play
Yeah,
and makes decisions about what we do next, and taking learnings that are contextualized to the local needs, which means that we're not imposing something over the top of people that actually is the wrong solution. Have I understood that
absolutely.
correctly?
Yes, and also have a very clear idea on the why. And if you're able to communicate the why and the vision to anyone who is asking, why are you doing this? That for me, it's a litmus test of success. So for many people, the in my experience, sometimes the why is very much narrowed down to, oh, we need a better technology or we need a better XYZ. But go deeper into it, understand why you're really doing it. Why do you want your employees to embrace it? Or what do you think, or why do you think your clients, your vendors will benefit out of it? Define that why and take that time and communicate the why to everyone. So if you're in a place to do that, that's a very good thing.
It seems to me that you are connecting already to the ancient wisdom component
Yes,
with the focus
absolutely.
on the why and the conscious
Yeah.
pause. So please tell the audience a little bit about what you mean by ancient wisdom.
Okay, so the way I see ancient wisdom is quite simple. So I was writing a diary note on what is that special in me that I want to pass on to my daughter. And that's when I started asking the questions myself. So I come from a traditional trading family. What it means is the families have traded for many years, and the relationships that as I go back and I see has been successful is the trade has existed between continents, between people, and between families for many generations. And countries came, countries dissolved, countries went by, and technology came and went by, but these relationships existed, and the
Mm-hmm.
wisdom has been passed on for generations. So there is value in it. And I started digging into those values and some things that have been taught to me, and I was subconsciously doing it. And I was applying the concept in digital transformation. So which is my passion. So one of my colleagues, or a few of my colleagues, told me that when you run a program of work, these are the things you naturally, and it comes to you naturally, or you do it. How about you start documenting it? And I started documenting them. Some of the values I believe in from ancient wisdom that is very useful for us as humanity are things like collaborate before competing. So, for example, if we compete, we are competing for the same resource, for the same whatever is available. So as a result, everybody gets less. But if we collaborate, we amplify our impact and we look for solutions that is beyond our constraints. So it just opens our mind. So I'm a firm believer in positive intelligence. It's again a science which has been there for a very long time, where we work, fundamentally, we work on what is actually working that helps us achieve better results. And that has been proven through many scientific methods. So in this case of simple thing like choose to collaborate. So when you're meeting someone or when you're meeting with other projects or meeting other transformations, look for opportunities to collaborate. So everybody learns and everybody capitalizes on that, and we work through that. And the other one, yes, you always take care of those you work with. It's a common principle that is becoming popular in the workplace, but if you look at ancient families or ancient businesses that have transcended time, they always looked after people. The reason is people are the wealth of knowledge. They know who to go to, who to talk to, how do we navigate to get things done. The world is a much better place if we are kind to each other and we learn to work with each other. So fundamental things, but these are the things that we choose to apply in a digital transformation that makes everything better.
So ancient traders,
Yes.
through your lineage
Yeah.
and your ancient heritage, were collaborating with each other.
Yeah.
And in the modern language, creating win-wins, I assume.
Exactly. Yeah.
So they wouldn't have used that language. I doubt they would. Have you got an ancient trading example
Trading.
from your heritage that
Yeah.
highlights how they collaborated? Because I think a lot of people think of ancient people as competing from a trading point of view.
Yeah.
So for a lot of modern people or
Mm.
current day people to actually look back and go, wow, they were collaborating way like for centuries already. Like this is not
Yes.
new. Collaboration
This
is
is
not
not
new.
a new thing. No. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So,
what did that look like back
yeah.
then?
So one of the things I was studying was people in the Silk Route. Who Silk Route has existed for very long periods of time, and people have navigated the Silk Route for long. So I was talking to a very good friend about it, and we were looking at some ancient manuscripts, and it was like traders from Kerala were trading with people from, or Dubai was a big trading port, and they were trading, and there was an ancient port called Korkai where people were trading across the Malabar coast, and then there. So one of the principles they followed was they traded worked with the partners and worked through the partners. So what it meant was everyone knew who to trade with. So nobody from Malabar or nobody from Korkai decided to just pack up and set up a trade center in Dubai. They didn't do that. They used the local contacts there and reached out to them. They made sure their products and services were available and all the goods and nice things, in addition to forming relationships. So relationships started with friendships, and in some cases, there is also records of people marrying into the families and much deeper relationships formed there. But there is always a respect for trade. So one of the challenges that a friend of mine who has inherited the family business was, she called me to say that, hey, was able to supply this client because we ran a limited we ran out of capacity, so they had extra capacity, so they serviced it. So it's like there was no contracts, there was no, like, the relationship is beyond contracts, and the relationship is based on trust. And money
Yes.
is a byproduct of all the relationships, right? So it's one of those things. So in addition to collaborating over competing, what I learned was it's trading through the partners and working with the partners, or trading through the partners provided them a lot more confidence in the business, ensured its sustainability, and also made sure everyone had a win-win. So that's why these relationships or these trades still continue to exist. And a lot of families that I have seen continue to trade. And those relationships are far deeper than any sort of contract you can put forward.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's fascinating, Judith, that
yeah,
our ancient history would teach us how to do what we do today. And what I'm hearing you say is
yeah,
that if you think of a classic supply chain,
yeah,
one of the challenges in the modern world is people are trying to squeeze the previous person,
yeah,
the previous link in the chain. They're trying to squeeze them price wise, and then
yeah,
they're trying to squeeze the one ahead of them, and so on and so forth.
yeah,
The challenge with that, of course, is that creates a race to the bottom,
Exactly.
which is not a win-win for anybody. But what you're saying is, with the ancient wisdom, they've been conscious that whoever's supplying me needs to be able to be sustainable from a business point of view. And because
Absolutely.
if they're not sustainable, then they can't
Yeah.
continue to work with us. And as you use the phrase,
Yeah.
we work through our partners.
Yes,
Yes,
exactly.
so we can't work through them if they're
If
no
they're
longer
not,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing you describe is they actually looked at a 360-degree perspective at who their partners were. So they may have been downstream, as we might in
Yeah.
the modern language call it, for some of the partners, but they
Yeah.
were also upstream from others and at the same level as others again. But if they've looked at it that no matter who my partner is and where they fit in the stream of productivity and trade, my role is to be always looking for the long-term sustainability of this relationship.
Absolutely. So you summarized it very well, Gary. So it's a thing, if it's a conscious thing of, if I look after those around me and my needs are taken care. So because everybody applies the same principle and it's a win-win. Nobody intentionally wants to cheat the other person, because as humans, we are good people. So if we
Yes.
follow that basic instinct and we follow that basic principle, we are creating a better world without, I don't have any doubts about that. So if you look at all the relationship they've transcended wars, countries, continents, all that stuff. But these relationships have stayed intact. So there is more to it, to what we see and what we experience. Yes.
So a question for the current day then would be that, with multinationals and global organizations coming and they buy up a company, and as a result of buying up a company, they want to do a digital transformation. Now, some of the principles that you're advocating might be not necessarily supported under those circumstances, because they're just saying, just do it and make sure we come out on top.
On top, yeah. So it's a very interesting thing, right? So companies buy up companies, the big ones end up with the small ones and all that stuff. So I was looking at it, like I've been in the industry for 20 years. If I was looking at it for the last 20 years, who have been successful in the industry, just in terms of people, and who are in a position to be influencers in the industry. So when I look at it purely from that perspective, people who looked after their clients and people who worked in their best interest and also the clients or best interest of those they serve, they always remained on the top, or they are rising to the top. And they are the industry influencers, especially in my industry. They are the ones people go to for decision making. It's not those who came in, looked for short-term gains and disappeared. Yes, they might have $1 million bonuses, but that's fine. That's the end of their earning. But these guys continue to earn whatever, a lot of money every day. Money is a byproduct. So end of the day, it belongs to, it is about, the company has to ask the question, what do we want to be known for? If you are in a short-term business and want to go and do this, whatever thing it is, that's absolutely fine. That's a conscious choice. But if they want to be known for who they are or what they are, like that guy describes in the book, Good to Great. So it's like, how do you get to, or being great? Like you can be good, and in your case, moving beyond good. How do we do that? Like as companies or as individuals, we've always tried to work that balance out. It's like, how do we get beyond good? We can do it in two ways, being hard on ourselves or just being nice to ourselves and embracing all the good stuff about ourselves. So I think we choose the easier path, like be nice about it. There are decisions that you make. Like, for example, if you acquire a company, there will be restructures and there will be product lines that you might choose to change and whatever. But have the big picture in mind and be kind to yourself and those around you as a result, and you will be more innovative. That's my experience.
And Judith, on the Moving Beyond Being Good podcast, we're more than happy to name names. So if you've got any of those good companies that you believe are doing, you're happy to tell us what their names are.
That's fine.
Because let's give them some admiration and applaud them for being great in this space. So what would be a couple of companies that, from your experience, are in
From
fact?
my experience, yeah. So I learned a lot about business from who taught me business from a very practical sense. So if you look at it, I learned it in my childhood. So I would say the neighbor from back home. So that's where I learned a lot of business. And the other one who I really really admire is my friend's family. So they are known as the Tyagaraja group. So everyone in South India knows them, and very very what do you call, authentic. They, in
Yes.
addition to businesses, they've also established universities and a lot of good things in the world, be it in South India or Singapore or anywhere else. So, and I had the privilege of, having Umayal as my friend. So as a result, I have a lot of respect for, what she does and what her family does. So for me, they are, that's legendary. So if you look at
Yes.
it, from the time India became independent and they had to inherit a old style mill and transform it to what it is now. It's the story is fantastic. For those who are interested, there is a lot of material on them on Wikipedia, so you can read about it, and there is also lots of articles. So that's one group that I always look at and I go, that's legacy. They've
Yes.
changed the history of two nations. So very very powerful. Yeah.
Very powerful. Thank you for
Mm,
sharing that, Judith.
yeah.
Now, we
Thank
need to
you.
talk about
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
book,
Yes.
right? So, how's it structured, and what are some key messages that you're really hoping people can take away without giving away everything,
Yeah.
of course, because
That's
we do
fine.
want them to go and get your book.
That's that's all right. So I'm happy to share what I can, and it's very organic, right? So the book is evolving, so there is a lot of moving parts to it. The first part of it is about the stories that has been taught to me and what I have learned from those stories and how we can apply that learnings in digital transformations. So
Mhm.
one of the stories that we all might have known, most of us might have known, and it's very popular. So it's about a boy who takes 5 stones and kills a giant. So this is about taking rocks to the sword fight. So if you look at it, it may be a super cool cartoon on, yes, he killed a giant with a stone fight, but there is a lot of thinking into why he went and chose the stone versus a sword for that fight. So
Yeah.
stone gives the agility and also the flexibility for decision making and all that, and also very light. So this is about those stories like that which have been taught to me, and the lessons that we can apply in digital transformation. And the second part of it is about where I have personally applied some of the lessons and seen the relationships or the impact that I have. So to give you an example, one of the very first implementations of or a digital transformation that I've done, and they are still my clients 20 years later, not for any financial reasons, it's purely because of respect. And one day we'll have them in the podcast. And it's like, for me, that example that I told you, a company that made itself in line with its peers. So it's like they continue to exist, they continue to serve their stakeholders and everyone else, and in a bigger sense, they are doing good in the world, and that for me, it's all about. So the book is all about how can we make the world a better place through digital transformation.
And do you
Yeah.
also tap into the neurodiversity topic as well through the book?
Yes,
Is that yes?
yeah,
Would you
I
like to explain
do.
a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, so for those who know me really well, or can relate to me very well, would know that I identify myself as neurodiverse, and this is a new topic that is, being popular in neurodiversity in the workplace. So what it means is people think very differently, and we tend to put people on different boxes, and that's how modern thinking is. So the importance of neurodiversity is it gives the freedom for everyone to be themselves and
Mm,
provide the thoughts and perspectives on the table. So one of the things in the ancient wisdom or the ancient saying is, what you do not know is the one that is going to hurt you. So what it
yes.
means is the more perspectives that you have on the table is better. So having that thought diversity, or the insisting on the thought diversity and the different perspectives, you're naturally mitigating your risk. So that's all
Yes.
that's the real tangible benefit of it that I can see. So, and also people will be better, productive, As a result, you'll be more productive and everybody wins. So why not? So I'm a big advocate of neurodiversity. So yeah, and
Yeah.
I've seen it work really, really well. Yeah.
Irrespective of who the decision maker is,
Yeah.
because ultimately someone's got to be making the decisions, but to
Yeah.
have that neurodiversity where we're getting all the perspectives, which gives you the data and
Yeah.
the information so you can make more informed decisions that are aligned
Exactly.
to ideally the why of the
Yeah.
why of what you do to help inform the how of what you're doing. It
Yes.
all makes sense. And Judith, something else that I'm always intrigued with my interviewees is
Yeah.
your own personal journey, because
Yeah.
you've moved countries yourself, moving from India to Australia, and
Yeah.
there's always aspects of a lot of courage involved in something like that. So, what aspects of your own personal journey on your life career would you like to share? And if there's any
Yeah.
key
Yeah.
lessons in particular for folk that
Yeah.
maybe thinking of the opposite of moving from Australia to a different country for their own
Yeah.
career and life.
Yeah. So for anyone for that matter, moving it's a challenge, right? So if I look at even moving a house, it's a big daunting challenge for me. So that's how it is. So for me, the first move to the US wasn't a very planned move. So it was a move that a decision that I had to make in less than 24 hours for different reasons. So I chose it. I chose to embrace that move for different reasons. So my dad gave me $1,000 at the airport, and that's all I had when I moved to the US. So moved to the US, yes, I had a job and all that. So it was a difficult time, but you establish yourself, you prove yourself, that's fine. And thanks to the tenacity and the wisdom that has been passed on to me, it was very, very useful at that time. And after my time in the US, GFC hit, and it was really hard. It was a hard time for everyone. So, and for me, I was in a situation where I couldn't go back to India for many reasons. So, I was looking for jobs elsewhere. So, the boss I was working with in the US introduced me to someone who said, "Okay, I've got a job in Australia. Would you like to consider that?" So, it's like, okay, great. So it wasn't like, okay, you did multiple types of interviews and all that stuff. So it's like it was a short interview process, and then the things got processed and stuff, and I came here. So Australia became a second home, and I love it. And my husband's Australian, so I've embraced the culture fully. So I totally understand the subtleties of the culture now. So which is a fun fun side of things. So and yeah, I have a daughter, so it's like she's a fusion, so we embrace both the cultures really, really well. So what I would
Yeah,
suggest is things happen and disruptions happen in businesses or life. So it's a part of life. We cannot work around it. In some cases, we can plan for disruption. My suggestion
mm,
to anyone listening to is if you're in a position where you can plan for disruption, consider yourself very, very lucky and plan for
mm,
your disruption and lead it with grace. So the
yes,
more prepared you are, managing a disruption becomes easier. Digital transformation, for example, is a disruption, but you can manage that disruption really well and turn it into make the disruption work for you. So that's the opportunity
yes,
there. So, but if you're like me, wherein, you didn't have an opportunity to even think about the move. So my suggestion is believe in yourself. You have everything that you need to handle the situation. And the world is full of very good people who believe in you. So for me, there were many people in Jacksonville who took a chance in me and embraced me as a part of their family. And I'm so grateful for them. And same when
yes.
I came to Melbourne and anywhere else, I treat everyone with that same thing. So the world is full of good people wherever you go. And I choose to believe in that, and there is good in the world. Yeah.
And use those values to help you navigate the disruptions that have occurred throughout your life. And what's also beautiful about your story is that between the American accent and the Aussie accent, it sounds like the Aussie accent won.
There you go.
Like, there you go. Right? Like, your husband's going,
Yeah.
Judith, you're sounding so Aussie. And when you go back home to family in India, no doubt, they say, gosh, Judith, you sound so Australian now. Judith, we've started the post-interview, and we've discovered there was a big piece of the conversation we left out, and it really is about the connectivity with ancient wisdom. And you were going into some depth around your own move from the USA to Australia and then meeting your husband, but then also the rite of passage for your husband into your family. Would you like to share with the audience a little bit of that ancient wisdom and your husband's rite of passage and what it really means?
Absolutely. So when my husband was accepted into the family, or when the time was right, my dad and other elders in the family, along with everyone else, we did the boundary walk together. So what it means is you go through uh, the boundary of the land, and then you stop at every boundary stone, and the elder in the family hands over the information that is important to the land and to the people. For example, in a boundary, I went through that with my grandfather, and a lot of people would have gone through that with their ancestors. So it's a very important part of the part of being an adult and part of being a part of a family if you're coming in from another family. So this is like handing over the keys. So this is about sharing things that are not necessarily seen or tangible. For example, you learn the story of why the boundary is there, and also things like, okay, somebody dries crops on the left side when in summer, or right side in winter, and all that stuff, and things like, okay, so this part of the land is going to flood at this point in time, and all those stuff. So what it is during that walk you'll feel that you are part of a big picture, and also the ancestors, or if being a spiritual person, believing in that, you have the grace and the guidance of those beyond you to be able to do that, and you will be equipped with whatever is needed to handle the mission that is ahead of you. So this is a powerful thing. So when I apply that principle in digital transformation, so most digital transformations, they call success as a point of go live or whatever it is. But the real point, the real knowledge is that boundary walk. For me, it's the handover, when the information gets passed on to one group who really cared about it to another group who are going to care for it in the future. So this is not just about a checklist that gets handed over, or a book that is nicely written and gets handed over. This is about the valuable information, the what is said, and also what is not said, that gets handed over to everyone else, the precious knowledge that helps everything move forward. So these are the simple things and the simple subtle things that we can learn from our past or ancestry or the ancient wisdom that we can incorporate in the world of digital transformation. That'll make life a lot better.
And knowing that your husband did the boundary walk with your family and community in the modern age, because that had to happen now, is just beautiful. And equally how you've taken that principle and the connectivity to ancient wisdom and the presence of the spirits of your ancestors past, and been able to articulate, Judith, how a handover in a digital transformation project is equally about the spirit of the project being handed over as well. And that mindset that I am handing over the spirit of this. It's not the tangible things, it is the intangibles associated with the project, about why this thing even really matters and why it's so important, and all of those little things that
exactly right.
ancient wisdom gives us. Yes.
It's not the standard metrics that matter. So this is what I tell anyone in my team. So it is, go beyond the golden triangle. Yes, it is there for a reason, but go beyond it. Anything that is tangible has many intangible things that cannot be described in words. So identify those, find those, and treasure them. So that'll define everything better, make everything better.
And what's even better, folks, is this is included in the book. What we've just been talking about is part of Judith's book. So we want to get it when it gets released. Make sure you connect, make sure you follow, make sure you find out when the book becomes available. Now, what would be some of the best ways for folk to reach out and contact you? And really importantly, stay in the loop for when your book comes out. What's going to be some of the best ways?
So that's great. So I am working on my website, which will be up shortly. And the second one is LinkedIn. So I post on LinkedIn, and writing is something that comes naturally to me. So I write on LinkedIn. So follow me on LinkedIn, and you'll get the feeds. And the other way is, if you want to talk to me, my calendar link is available. So please feel free to book an invite. So anytime. Yeah, I always want to catch up with people who with similar interests, and let's make the world a better place together.
100%. Now, the calendar link is on LinkedIn. Did I hear that
Yeah,
correctly?
it is. Yes.
Okay,
it is, yes.
great. So at the moment, there's LinkedIn. You've got the calendar link to be able to book in and have a chat with you. And then you've got your website coming soon. So that information will obviously also appear on LinkedIn too.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Judith O'Callaghan, thank you so much for joining me on the Moving Beyond Being Good podcast. Folks, we're very, very delighted to have special people, ancient wisdom and digital transformation. How lucky are we? Thanks again, Judith.
And thank you very much, Gary, and thanks for having me. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, folks, many of you would be aware that Yes for Success, How to Achieve Life Harmony and Fulfillment was released in November of 2023. In February of 2024, the audiobook has just come out. It's released now. You can get it directly through Organisations That Matter website. The link's in the show notes. It'll be available on Audible soon. But something you might not know about Audible is my producer for the book informed me of an organisation called Sound. And Sound's created by a gentleman called Mark Moriarty. And Sound's purpose is to enable authors and creators of digital audio products to be able to earn some reward from their hard work. So Sound only takes a 20% commission off any sales that come through them to actually access the digital product. It ends up on your iPod, your Apple iPhone podcast or your Google podcast app and a couple of other apps, compared to, and I know this through personal experience, Amazon and Audible, where the author's lucky if they get 5% of the return on their goods, and they also don't control the price. So if in principle you think it's a fairer deal to have the author receiving 80% rather than only 5%, then Sound, it's an app. It works really simply. It's really easy tool to use. Please feel free to support not only this audiobook, but any other audiobooks that may be published by self-published authors like myself. So keep that in mind, folks. Once again, I'm Gary Ryan, the host of the Moving Beyond Being Good podcast, and we look forward to having you next time.
Thank you.